I invite you to seize opportunities, both inside and outside of the classroom. Explore new ideas.
Technology is looking at things under the microscope. Okay? All right. So first of all, the muscle cell, Jenny Lynn?
Yes.
Okay. The skeletal muscle cell is referred to as a fiber, muscle fiber. You'll see that same term when we get into the nervous system, but there a fiber means something different. Okay? So in the muscular system, the term fiber refers to the cell. And again, they're called that because they're long, thin, fiber-like structures. So what you see over here, for example, there's part of one. Right? There's another one up there. So the skeletal muscle cells are very long, thin fibers. They run the entire length of a muscle. That refers to muscle. Okay? So, for instance, the cell membrane that you see peeled away right here, or up there in that picture, that drawing, is called the sarcolemma. If you remember back to ANP1, one of the terms for the cell membrane is plasmalemma. Remember that term? Plasmalemma? Okay. So the term sarcolemma, again, sarco comes from Greek referring to flesh, meaning muscle. It's called a sarcolemma. All right. A unique characteristic of is the presence of what are called transverse tubules. Transverse tubules, which is T-tubules. So let me show you what that is. And again, I give you these pictures so you can refer to those if you want as you go through this. And again, they're in color on the blackboard if you want to see them or blow them up, whatever you want to do there. So here's a muscle cell. Sarcolemma right here. It's been peeled away. And then connected to that are these things right here. Those are the T-tubules, transverse tubules. Okay? So they're just extensions of the cell membrane that dip down into the into the muscle cell. Okay? So those are the T-tubules or transverse tubules. So again, those are just extensions of the cell membrane that project down into the cell, the muscle cell. And we'll see why that's significant as we go through and talk about how muscle contraction happens, which we'll do today in a little while. Okay? All right, another unique term to muscle cells is the term sarcoplasm. And sarco refers to flesh, muscle. That's the cytoplasm. So that's the term for the cytoplasm of the cell, the fluid inside the muscle cell. That's called sarcoplasm. Okay, everybody get that? In plasm or sarcoplasm are the typical organelles that you learned about in ANP1. So the ribosomes, for example, lysosome. There are a lot of mitochondria and many nuclei, because again, the reason for that is during the development in the embryo, these individual cells fuse together to form a single muscle cell. They each bring their own nucleus. So again, that's one of the characteristics of skeletal muscle cells, many nuclei, multinucleate. Okay, so again, the typical organelles that you learned about, the Golgi complex and the lysosomes, etc., are also found in muscle cells, skeletal muscle cells. But they also contain a lot of mitochondria. Okay, mitochondria that's where the energy takes a lot of energy. So it takes a lot of energy just to do that. My elbow, that takes a lot of energy. And so cells have to have a lot of mitochondria to provide that. Another unique structure, skeletal muscle cells, is the presence of what's called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Does that sound like anything that you ran across in AF1? What? Endoplasmic reticulum, right? Remember that? Plasmic reticulum is this network of membranes that runs throughout the cell. In the case of muscle cells, it's the same type of structure. It has a different function. The sarcoplasmic reticulum stores calcium. Calcium is important. So this calcium gets stored inside muscles in this sac throughout the cytoplasm. And that's called, again, the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Reticulum just means network. So we have this network of membranes that stores calcium inside muscle cells. Okay, is that clear? All right. Now, as part of that structure, there are other structures called terminal cisternae. And these run right alongside the transverse tubules that I referred to in the previous slide there. And so we'll see what the connection is between those when we take a look at muscle contraction. Okay, so again, the terminal cisternae are part of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Make sense? Okay. Continuing with the unique features of skeletal muscle cells. Inside, remember, a muscle cell is called a fiber because it's this long, thin cylinder. Well, inside that are smaller, long, thin cylinders that make up. Those are called myofibrils. So inside this long, thin cylinder that constitutes the muscle cell, there are myofibers. Those are the myofibrils. Okay? Those, in turn, contain smaller fibers. It's kind of like a rope. A rope is made up of these smaller strings, basically, right, wrapped around each other. Well, it's very similar in skeletal muscle cells. So we have these tiny fibers called myofilaments. Okay? And many of those make up a myofibril. Many of these make up a muscle cell, a fiber. Understand so far? All right, so, got that? So take a look at the picture here. Okay, so again, here's an individual muscle cell right here. And so this is the muscle fiber. And then inside there, you can see the muscle cell. Those are the myofibrils. Those are the myofilaments. Got it? All right. Okay, there are two types of myofilaments. Those are called thick filaments. This is referring to are these little dots that you can see are running the length, or the ends of what are running the length of the muscle cell. There are two types of those: thick filaments, thin filaments. Zoom in on this. Let's look at the top one here. So this thing right here, you can see the end of it right there. That's a myofibril, right? And here's another myofibril. So thin filaments and thick filaments, you can see here overlap each other, and it's in a very organized way, and that's going to explain those striations that you see in skeletal muscle. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at these filaments here, these myofilaments. Thick filaments protein called myosin. So the specific protein called myosin is what makes up the structure of a thick filament. Okay, so again, these red lines, those are filaments. Okay. And each one of those thick filaments, right here, okay? This is a part of a thick filament right here. And you can see these sort of head-like structures sticking out. Molecules. Okay. So it has sort of the shape of two golf clubs that are twisted around each other. That's the shape of a myosin molecule. Okay. So here's a myosin molecule right here. You see that? So what makes up a thick filament is one of these red lines, a whole bunch of these molecules. Right? And notice the heads here are sticking out at different angles. Right? See that? Okay. On that part of that molecule is an area where ATP attaches. Remember, ATP is how everybody stores energy, right? ATP is the energy molecule. Okay, well, muscle contraction requires energy. Where does the energy come from? From ATP. Okay? All right, so again, on the